Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space, far from Earth and the safety of human territory. Jake had been in command for 3 years, but he still felt proud every time he looked at his crew working at their stations. "Admiral, we have contacts on long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Kate Murphy from the communication station. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. 12 ships approaching from Sector 7. Jake walked over to Commander Ryan Kelly at the tactical station. "What do you see, Ryan?" Ryan's fingers moved quickly over his control panel. The main screen changed to show a tactical display with 12 red dots moving toward them. "They're big, Admiral, really big. Each one is at least 3 times our size." Captain Lisa Brooks looked up from her weapons console. "Admiral, those are not human ships. The computer is identifying them as Zephyrian, Karathi, Vextari, and Hegemony. Vessels." Jake felt his stomach tighten. 4 different alien species working together meant serious trouble. The Defiance was alone, hundreds of light years from the nearest human fleet. He had hoped their patrol mission would be quiet, but it seemed the galaxy had other plans. "Put them on screen," Jake ordered. The main display changed to show the approaching fleet. The alien ships were massive, dark shapes against the stars. Each one looked like a floating city, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that made them look like they were wrapped in blue fire. "My God," whispered Amy Watson, the youngest member of the bridge crew. "They're huge." Jake had to agree. The Defiance was a good ship, but it looked like a toy compared to these monsters. The human vessel was only 400 meters long, while the alien dreadnoughts stretched over a kilometer each. The humans had always known they were outnumbered in the galaxy, but seeing it like this made it real. "Incoming transmission," Kate announced. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Jake said. The screen filled with the image of an alien face. The creature had purple skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and full of anger. "Human vessel, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. You are trespassing in space that now belongs to the Galactic Coalition. Your species has been judged primitive and unworthy of membership in civilized society." Jake stepped forward. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Navy. We are in neutral space, conducting a peaceful patrol. We have no wish for conflict." The alien admiral laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Peaceful? Your species knows only war and destruction. We have studied your history, human. You fight among yourselves like wild animals. You poison your own world and kill your own kind for resources." "That's in our past," Jake replied. "We've learned from our mistakes. Have you?" Kethvar's 4 eyes glowed with hatred. "Your ship carries weapons. Your species builds warships and sends them to patrol space that does not belong to you. You are exactly what we expected: violent, aggressive, and dangerous." Behind Jake, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Chief Engineer Pete Collins appeared at his elbow. "Admiral, the alien fleet is maintaining a distance of 50 kilometers. They're not moving to attack position yet." Jake nodded, but kept his attention on the screen. "Admiral Kethvar, we don't want to fight. There's no reason for conflict between our species." "There is every reason," the alien commander snarled. "Your species is a threat to galactic peace. You multiply like insects and consume everything in your path. You must be stopped before you spread further." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then you will be destroyed. Look at your pathetic vessel, human. One of my ships could crush it without effort. You have 12 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy facing you. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your weapons are primitive. Your armor is worthless. The other aliens on Kethfar's bridge could be seen in the background, all of them different species, but all looking at the humans with the same mixture of disgust and contempt. Jake had seen that look before, in the early days of human space. Exploration when they first encountered other species. You have 1 hour to abandon this territory, Kethvar continued. Leave now, and we will let you run back to your little world. Stay, and we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears the Coalition. Fleet. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, trained professionals, who had volunteered to serve far from home. They deserved better than to die in an impossible battle. Options? Jake asked. Ryan checked his displays. We can't outrun them, Admiral. Their ships are faster than ours. We can't hide. They already have us locked on sensors. And we can't fight them, not conventionally. Lisa spoke up from her station. Admiral, we do have one option. The special weapon. Jake nodded slowly. He had hoped never to use it, but the situation was becoming impossible. The Defiance looked like an ordinary frigate, but it carried humanity's most advanced technology. The other species of the galaxy thought humans were primitive, but they had never seen what human scientists could do when they really tried. How long do we have? Jake asked. Kate checked her instruments. 58 minutes until their deadline, Admiral. But I'm reading energy buildups on their weapon systems. They might not wait that long. Jake made his decision. All hands, this is the Admiral. Prepare for battle stations. We're not running away. Signal the fleet. Tell them we're about to show these aliens what humans can really do. The bridge crew sprang into action. Warning lights flashed red as the ship prepared for combat. Jake looked at the alien fleet on the screen and smiled grimly. They thought the Defiance was weak because it was small. They were about to learn that size wasn't everything. The battle was about to begin. Amy Watson walked quickly through the corridors of the Defiance, her hands shaking slightly as she carried the coffee to the bridge crew. The ship felt different now that they were at battle stations. The lights were dimmer, and there was a constant hum in the air that made her skin tingle. She stopped at the engineering section, where Chief Engineer Pete Collins was working at a massive control panel. The engineering bay was usually clean and organized, but now it looked like organized chaos. Cables had been pulled out of walls, and strange devices were being connected to the ship's main power systems. Mr. Collins? Amy asked quietly. What's happening down here? Pete looked up from his work. His face was covered in sweat, and his usually neat uniform was stained with grease. We're getting ready to use the big gun, kid. The weapon that makes this ship special. I don't understand, Amy said. This is just a frigate. We only have basic weapons. Pete laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's what we want everyone to think. But the Defiance isn't what it appears to be. Come here, let me show you something. He led her to a sealed door that Amy had never seen opened. Pete pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door slid back to reveal a room filled with equipment. Unlike anything Amy had ever seen. Strange crystals glowed with their own light, and machines hummed with barely contained energy. This is the real heart of the ship, Pete explained. Everything else is just for show. The Defiance was built around this weapon system. It took the best scientists on Earth 5 years to design it, and another 3 years to build it. Amy stared at the machines. They didn't look like any human technology she knew. Some of the components seemed to bend light around them, and others appeared to be made of materials that shifted color as she watched. Is it alien technology? She asked. Some of it, Pete admitted. We've been studying captured alien equipment for 20 years. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Helen Carter figured out how to combine it with human physics. The aliens think we're primitive because we don't follow their rules. But that's exactly what makes us dangerous. On the bridge, Dr. Carter was explaining the same thing to Commander Kelly. The chief science officer was a small woman with gray hair and intense green eyes. She spoke quickly, her hands moving as she described complex scientific principles. The aliens all use the same basic approach to weapons, she said. They focus on raw power, bigger guns, more energy, thicker armor. It's like an arms race where everyone tries to build the biggest sword. Ryan nodded, though he didn't fully understand. And we do something different? Completely different. Human scientists have always been good at finding new ways to solve old problems. Instead of building a bigger sword, we built a weapon that cuts through reality itself. In the weapons bay, Captain Lisa Brooks was running through final checks. On the quantum cascade cannon, the weapon didn't look impressive from the outside, just a long tube that ran through the center of the ship. But Lisa knew that looks could be deceiving. Lieutenant Tom Garcia, her assistant, was nervous. "Captain, are you sure this thing will work? We've only tested it once, and that was just a small-scale version." Lisa smiled grimly. "Tom, this weapon is based on principles that the aliens don't even know exist. They think reality follows their rules, but humans have always been good at breaking rules." She showed him the weapon's control panel. It was surprisingly simple, just a few buttons and displays. The quantum cascade cannon doesn't fire energy or projectiles. It fires a chain reaction that breaks the bonds between atoms. Once it starts, it spreads from ship to ship through their own defensive systems. "How is that possible?" Tom asked. "The aliens connect all their ships together with quantum communication networks," Lisa explained. "They think it makes them stronger. Instant communication, shared shields, coordinated attacks. But it also makes them vulnerable. If we can start a cascade reaction in one ship, it will spread to all of them." In the Marine Bay, Sergeant Mike Johnson was preparing his troops for the possibility of boarding actions. The Marines were checking their weapons and armor, but Mike knew they probably wouldn't be needed. This battle would be decided by the ship's main weapon, not by soldiers with rifles. "Sarge," called Private Danny Clark, "what's this special weapon everyone's talking about?" Mike strapped on his sidearm. "It's something the scientists cooked up. I don't understand the details, but I know it's powerful enough to level a city. The Admiral is betting everything on one shot." Back in engineering, Pete was making final adjustments to the power systems. The quantum cascade cannon needed enormous amounts of energy to function, more than the ship's normal reactor could provide. But the Defiance had been built with a special power core that could overload safely for short periods. "Amy, I need you to understand something," Pete said as he worked. "When we fire this weapon, every system on the ship will be affected. The lights will go out, gravity will fluctuate, and the air recycling will stop. We'll have maybe 10 minutes of life support after we fire." "What if we miss?" Amy asked. "Then we die," Pete said simply. "The weapon takes everything we have. If it doesn't work, we won't have power for shields, engines, or life support. It's all or nothing." On the bridge, Admiral Morrison was receiving reports from all departments. The alien fleet was still holding position, but their weapons were charging. The deadline was approaching, and Kethvar was clearly losing patience. "Admiral," Kate reported, "the aliens are broadcasting again. They're demanding an immediate response." "Put them through," Jake ordered. Kethvar's face appeared on the screen again. "Your time is running out, human. I am being generous by giving you this chance to flee. My commanders think I should simply destroy you now." "We're not going anywhere," Jake replied. "This is neutral space, and we have as much right to be here as you do." "Rights?" Kethvar laughed. "You speak of rights?" You are insects compared to us. Your entire species could be eliminated by a single one of my ships. You have no weapons that can penetrate our shields, no armor that can stop our guns. You are nothing." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready, working calmly at their stations despite the impossible odds. These people had volunteered to serve on the frontier, knowing they might never see home again. They deserved better than to be dismissed as insects. "Maybe you're right," Jake said. "Maybe we are just insects." But insects can be very dangerous when they're cornered. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. "Status report." "Quantum cascade cannon is ready," Lisa reported. "All power systems are nominal. We can fire on your command." "Engineering." "Ready," Pete called through the comm system. "Reactor is building to critical levels. We'll have one shot, Admiral." Dr. Carter looked up from her science station. "Admiral, the alien fleet is moving into attack formation. They're positioning themselves in a pattern that will maximize their firepower while protecting their command ships." Jake nodded. "The aliens were being careful, as they should be. They had overwhelming superiority in numbers and firepower. They could afford to be cautious, but they didn't know what they were really facing. The Defiance looked like a simple frigate, but it was actually humanity's most advanced warship. The quantum cascade cannon was a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. All stations, prepare for combat, Jake ordered. We're about to show these aliens what humans can do when they stop playing by the rules. The battle was about to begin, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The alien fleet moved like a pack of predators closing in on wounded prey. Admiral Kethfer watched from his command ship as the 12 massive vessels formed a perfect attack formation. Each ship was positioned to maximize damage while minimizing risk to the others. "Human vessel is maintaining position," reported his tactical officer. "They show no signs of attempting to flee." Kethfer's 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction. "Foolish creatures. Their pride will be their destruction. Signal all ships. Maintain 50-kilometer distance. We will demonstrate our power before we destroy them." The Zephyrian admiral had fought many battles in his long career. He had seen countless enemy ships try to fight against impossible odds. They always made the same mistake. They panicked and wasted their limited resources on desperate attacks that accomplished nothing. "Admiral," called his weapons officer, "all ships report ready to fire. Plasma cannons are charged, particle beams are online, and missile tubes are loaded." "Excellent," Kethfer replied. "But remember, we want to disable their ship, not destroy it. I want to study their primitive technology before we eliminate them." On the bridge of the Defiance, tension filled the air like electricity. Every crew member knew they were facing certain death, but none of them showed fear. They had trained for this moment, and they were ready. "Alien fleet is in position," Ryan reported from his tactical station. "They're keeping their distance." "Just like we expected." Admiral Morrison nodded. The aliens were being smart, staying far enough away to avoid any surprise attacks, but close enough to use their superior firepower. It was exactly what he would have done in their position. "Time to weapons ready?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her displays. 3 minutes and counting, Admiral. The power buildup is on schedule." In the engineering section, Pete Collins watched the reactor readouts with growing concern. The quantum cascade cannon needed enormous amounts of energy, and the ship's power core was being pushed beyond its normal limits. Warning lights flashed red as the reactor temperature climbed toward dangerous levels. "Amy, I need you to monitor the cooling systems," Pete called to his assistant. "If the temperature goes too high, we'll have a meltdown instead of a controlled overload." Amy's hands flew over the control panel. She had never done anything this important before, but she was determined not to let the crew down. "Cooling systems. Are holding steady, Mr. Collins. Temperature is rising, but still in the safe zone. Good girl. Just keep watching those numbers. On the bridge, Dr. Carter was making final adjustments to the quantum cascade targeting system. The weapon was unlike anything ever built before. It didn't target physical objects, but rather the quantum signatures of matter itself. Admiral, the alien ships are using quantum entanglement for their communications and shield systems, she reported. Once our weapon locks onto one ship, it will automatically spread to all connected vessels. How long will the cascade effect take? Jake asked. 30 seconds from first contact to complete fleet destruction, Dr. Carter replied. The quantum bonds will break down faster than their computers can compensate. Lieutenant Tom Garcia was nervous as he watched the alien fleet on his display. Captain Brooks, what if their shields can stop our weapon? Lisa smiled grimly. Tom, conventional shields work by deflecting or absorbing energy. Our weapon doesn't use energy. It uses quantum mechanics. Their shields won't even recognize it as an attack until it's too late. The alien fleet suddenly came alive with activity. Weapon ports opened along the sides of the massive ships, revealing rows of plasma cannons and particle beam projectors. The space around the fleet began to glow with barely contained energy. They're charging weapons, Ryan announced. All 12 ships are powering up their main guns. Jake felt sweat on his forehead. The aliens were getting ready to attack, and the Defiance wasn't ready to fire yet. How much longer, Lisa? 2 minutes, Admiral. The reactor is still building power. We don't have 2 minutes, Jake replied. They're going to fire any second now. On the Zephyrian command ship, Admiral Kethvar was losing patience. The human vessel was just sitting there, making no attempt to flee or fight. It was almost insulting. Perhaps they are trying to surrender, suggested his tactical officer. Humans don't surrender, Kethvar replied. They fight until they die. It's what makes them dangerous, despite their primitive technology. The Admiral stared at the human ship on his screen. It was so small compared to his fleet, barely visible among the stars. But something bothered him about the way it was just sitting there, waiting. Scan their ship again, he ordered. I want to know what they're doing. The science officer worked at his console for several minutes. Admiral, I'm reading unusual energy patterns from their vessel. Their reactor is operating at 150% of normal capacity. Kethvar's eyes narrowed. They're overloading their power core. Are they planning to ram us? Negative, Admiral. They're too far away, and their engines are not engaged. The energy is being directed to something else. Before Kethvar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Admiral, the human vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're sending a message. Put it through, Kethvar ordered. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiance was dimly lit, with crew members working frantically at their stations. Admiral Kethvar, this is your final warning. Withdraw your fleet immediately, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. Kethvar laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Defend yourselves? With what? You have one small ship against 12 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy. You cannot possibly win. Maybe not, Jake replied. But we can make sure you lose too. The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar staring at a blank screen. Something in the human's voice had been different. Not fear or desperation, but confidence. It was the voice of someone who knew something important. All ships open fire, Kethvar ordered. Disable their weapons and engines, but don't destroy them. I want to interrogate their crew. The alien fleet erupted in light as hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously. Plasma bolts and particle beams streaked across space toward the tiny human ship. The attack was devastating, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. On the Defiance, the crew braced for impact. The ship's shields flared as the alien weapons struck, but the metamaterial armor held. The vessel shook violently, and several control panels exploded in showers of sparks. "Shields down to 40%, Ryan reported. "Hull integrity holding, but we can't take much more of this." "Admiral," Lisa called urgently, "the weapon is ready to fire. All systems are green." Jake looked at his crew one final time. These brave people had followed him into an impossible battle, trusting in his leadership and their ship's untested technology. Now it was time to see if their faith was justified. "Fire the quantum cascade cannon," he ordered. Lisa pressed the firing button, and the Defiance seemed to hold its breath. Every light on the ship dimmed as the weapon drew power from all systems. The artificial gravity fluctuated, making everyone feel momentarily weightless dot in the engineering section. Pete watched in amazement as the reactor output climbed to levels he had never seen before. "Come on, girl," he whispered to the ship. "Don't let us down now." The quantum cascade cannon fired, sending a beam of distorted space-time toward the alien fleet. The weapon was invisible to normal sensors, but its effects on reality itself were unmistakable. The moment of truth had arrived. In the next few seconds, they would either save humanity or die trying. The quantum cascade cannon, fired with a sound like reality itself, was being torn apart. The weapon drew power from every system on the Defiance, causing the lights to dim and the artificial gravity to fluctuate wildly. Crew members grabbed their stations as the ship shuddered under the massive energy drain. Captain Lisa Brooks watched her weapon displays with intense concentration. The quantum cascade beam was invisible to normal sensors, but her instruments could track its path through space. The beam moved differently than any conventional weapon. It curved around gravitational fields and seemed to bend the fabric of space-time itself. "Firing sequence complete," she announced. "All power has been transferred to the weapon." Admiral Morrison felt his stomach drop as the ship's gravity systems failed completely. He floated above his command chair, watching the alien fleet on the main screen. The massive enemy ships continued to fire their weapons, unaware that death was already racing toward them. "Impact in 15 seconds, Dr. Carter reported from her science station. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking as she monitored the quantum cascade's progress. On the Zephyrian command ship, Admiral Kethver was studying the tactical display with growing confusion. His sensors showed no incoming attack from the human vessel, but his science officer was reporting strange readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations in space," the science officer reported. "The readings are unlike anything in our database." Kethver's 4 eyes focused on the display. "Are the humans using some kind of cloaking device?" "Negative, Admiral. This is something else entirely. The quantum fluctuations are moving toward our fleet at the speed of light." Before Kethver could respond, the quantum cascade beam struck his flagship. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The beam passed through the ship's shields without triggering any defensive systems. It was as if the weapon didn't exist. Then the cascade effect began. The beam struck the ship's hull and immediately began breaking down the quantum bonds that held the atoms together. The effect started small, just a few molecules in the outer armor plating. But quantum mechanics followed its own rules, and the cascade spread exponentially. "Admiral," the science officer screamed, "the hull is disintegrating. Molecular bonds are breaking down at the quantum level." Kethver watched in horror as his mighty dreadnought began to dissolve. The effect started at the point of impact and spread outward like ripples in a pond. The ship's advanced armor, designed to stop any known weapon, simply ceased to exist as its atomic structure collapsed. "Shields, raise all shields," Kethvar ordered desperately. "Shields are useless, Admiral," the tactical officer replied. "The weapon is attacking the quantum structure of matter itself. Our defenses can't stop it. The cascade effect spread through the ship's hull, reaching the quantum communication array that connected all 12 vessels. The alien fleet had been designed to work together, sharing information and coordinating attacks through quantum entanglement. But now that same system became their doom. The quantum cascade spread from ship to ship through the communication network. Each vessel was quantum entangled with the others, and the cascade effect followed those connections like electricity following a wire. On the second ship, a Kharafi battle cruiser, the crew had only seconds to realize what was happening. The ship's commander watched his screens in disbelief as the quantum cascade reached his vessel through the communication link. All stations, emergency disconnect from the fleet network. He ordered, but it was too late. The cascade had already established a quantum lock on his ship's atomic structure. The massive vessel began to dissolve, its hull breaking down at the molecular level. The third ship, a Vextari destroyer, tried to jump to hyperspace to escape the effect. But the quantum cascade had already touched its hull, and the ship's atomic structure was unraveling faster than its computers could compensate. On the Defiance, the crew watched in amazement as the alien fleet began to disappear. The massive ships that had seemed so threatening just moments before were dissolving like sand castles in the tide. "My God," whispered Amy Watson from her position at the engineering console. "It's actually working." Pete Collins was monitoring the ship's power systems, making sure the reactor didn't overload completely. "The cascade is spreading faster than we calculated," he reported. "It's jumping from ship to ship through their quantum network." Admiral Morrison floated in the zero gravity of the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The red dots representing the alien ships were disappearing one by one as the quantum cascade consumed them. "Time to complete fleet destruction?" he asked. Dr. Carter checked her instruments. 28 seconds, Admiral. The cascade is accelerating as it spreads through their network. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kethvar was facing the end of his career and his life. Half his ship had already dissolved, and the cascade was spreading toward the command bridge. His crew was screaming in panic as their reality literally fell apart around them. "Send a distress signal," he ordered. "Warn the homeworld about the human weapon." "Communication systems are down, Admiral." The communications officer replied, "The quantum cascade has destroyed our transmitters." Kethvar's last thought was a grudging respect for the humans he had underestimated. They had seemed so primitive, so weak compared to the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. But they had created a weapon that could destroy matter itself. Cascade effect reached the bridge, and Admiral Kethvar dissolved into his component atoms, along with his ship and his crew. One by one, the 12 ships of the alien fleet ceased to exist. The quantum cascade broke down their hulls, their weapons, their shields, and their crews at the molecular level. In less than 30 seconds, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was reduced to clouds of elementary particles. On the Defiance, the crew watched in silence as the last alien ship disappeared from their sensors. The space where the massive fleet had been was now empty except for expanding clouds of atomic debris. "Fleet destroyed," Ryan reported quietly. "All enemy vessels eliminated." Admiral Morrison felt the ship's artificial gravity return as the power systems came back online. The quantum cascade cannon had used every bit of energy the Defiance could produce, but it had worked exactly as designed. "Casualties?" he asked. "None, Admiral," Kate reported. "All crew members are accounted for. Minor injuries only." Lisa looked up from her weapons console, her face pale but determined. "Admiral, the weapon performed perfectly." The quantum cascade spread through their entire fleet in 28 seconds, exactly as Dr. Carter predicted. Pete's voice came through the CUM system from engineering. "Admiral, we're running on backup power, but all systems are coming back online. The reactor is stable, and we should have full power restored in 10 minutes. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew that had just changed the course of galactic history. These brave people had trusted in untested technology and impossible odds. They had faced the most powerful fleet in the galaxy and won. "Signal Earth," he ordered. "Tell them the weapon works. Tell them the galaxy is about to get a lot more interesting." The age of human weakness was over. The aliens would never underestimate humanity again. The news of the battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major species had received reports of the impossible victory. The human ship that had faced 12 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy and won in less than 30 seconds. On Earth, President Sarah Mitchell sat in the emergency council chamber, staring at the holographic display that showed the battle site. Where the alien fleet had been, there was now only empty space and clouds of atomic particles. "Are you absolutely certain about this report?" she asked General Robert Hayes, head of Earth's military forces. "Confirmed by 3 independent sources, Madam President," the general replied. "The Defiance destroyed the entire coalition fleet with a single weapon discharge. Admiral Morrison is requesting orders." Sarah looked around the room at her advisors. For 20 years, humanity had been the underdog in galactic politics. They had been ignored, dismissed, and treated as primitives by the advanced alien civilizations. Now everything had changed. "What's the status of alien forces near our territory?" she asked. "Retreating, ma'am," reported Intelligence Director Corinne White. 7 alien fleets that were moving toward human space have reversed course. The hegemony has recalled all their ships to defensive positions. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Ellen Price was experiencing a very different reception than usual. The massive space station orbited a neutral star system and served as the diplomatic center for dozens of species. Ellen had visited many times before, usually to be lectured about humanity's aggressive tendencies. Now, as she walked through the station's corridors, other ambassadors stepped aside and whispered among themselves. The Korathi representative, who had once called humans violent primitives, now bowed respectfully as she passed. "Ambassador Price," called a voice behind her. She turned to see Ambassador Victor of the Zephyrian Empire. His purple skin was pale, and his 4 eyes showed fear instead of their usual arrogance. "Ambassador Vector," Ellen replied calmly. "I trust you've heard about the recent incident, the destruction of Admiral Kethver's fleet?" "Yes, we've heard." Vector's voice was barely above a whisper. "Ambassador, my government wishes to open formal diplomatic relations with humanity. We believe there may have been ... misunderstandings ... In the past," Ellen smiled politely. "I'm sure there were. Perhaps we can discuss it at the emergency council session." The emergency session was unlike any in the council's history. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 47 species, all of them talking in hushed tones about the human weapon. Ambassador Price took her seat at the human delegation table and waited for the session to begin. Council Speaker Zarthul, an ancient creature from the ethereal collective, called the session to order. "We are gathered to discuss the recent military action that resulted in the destruction of a coalition fleet. Ambassador Price, the council requires an explanation." Ellen stood and activated her holographic display. The USS Defiance was conducting a routine patrol in neutral space when it was confronted by 12 warships from 4 different species. The alien commander, Admiral Kethver, demanded that humanity abandon its territory and threatened to destroy any human vessels that remained. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Zephyrian ambassador looked uncomfortable as Ellen continued. The Defiance attempted to negotiate, but the alien fleet opened fire. Faced with destruction, the human ship defended itself using its onboard weapon systems. The result was the complete destruction of the attacking fleet. With one shot, added the Korathi. Representative, your ship destroyed 12 of our most advanced vessels with a single weapon discharge. How is this possible? Ellen smiled. Human scientists have always been good at finding creative solutions to complex problems. We approached the challenge of space combat differently than other species. On the Defiance, Admiral Morrison was receiving reports from across human space. The ship's communication array was working overtime as messages poured in from Earth, the colonies, and other human vessels. Admiral, Kate reported, we're getting requests for technical data on the quantum cascade weapon from 15 different species. The hegemony is offering a formal alliance. The Vextari want to establish trade agreements. Dr. Carter looked up from her science station. Admiral, I'm also receiving requests from universities and research institutes across the galaxy. Everyone wants to understand how the weapon works. Jake smiled. What are we telling them? That the information is classified, Admiral, Dr. Carter replied. But I think the galaxy has learned an important lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. In the ship's engineering section, Pete Collins was working with Amy Watson to restore full power to all systems. The quantum cascade cannon had pushed the Defiance to its limits, but the ship had performed perfectly. Mr. Collins, Amy asked, what happens now? Will other species try to build weapons like ours? Pete wiped grease from his hands and considered the question. They can try, Amy, but they don't think like we do. They follow rules and traditions that have worked for thousands of years. Humans break rules and try new things. That's what makes us dangerous. And that's what makes us human, Amy added with a smile. Back on the Galactic Council station, the emergency session was reaching its conclusion. Ambassador Price had answered dozens of questions about the battle, always carefully avoiding any details about how the weapon actually worked. The Council recognizes, Speaker Zarthul announced, that humanity acted in self-defense against an unprovoked attack. However, the power demonstrated by human weapons technology has ... implications. For galactic security, what kind of implications? Ellen asked. The ancient speaker's translucent form flickered with uncertainty. For 2,000 years, the balance of power in this galaxy has been stable. No single species has possessed weapons capable of destroying entire fleets with one shot. Your technology changes everything. Ellen stood to address the full council. Speaker Zarthul, members of the council, humanity has no desire to threaten galactic peace. We have always preferred diplomacy to warfare, but we will defend ourselves when attacked. And you have proven that you can do so most effectively, added the Korathi ambassador. The question now is whether other species can trust humanity with such power. The same question could be asked about any species, Ellen replied. The difference is that humanity has always been honest about our capabilities. We don't hide behind arrogance or false superiority. We are what we are, a young species trying to find our place in the galaxy. On Earth, President Mitchell was meeting with her military commanders to discuss the implications of the victory. The quantum cascade weapon had worked perfectly, but it also meant that humanity was now a major power, whether they wanted to be or not. Madam President, General Hayes reported, we're receiving communication requests from every major government in the galaxy. Everyone wants to know our intentions. What are our intentions, General? Sarah asked. The same as they've always been, ma'am. Peace, prosperity, and the right to exist without being threatened by those who consider us inferior. Intelligence. Director White added her assessment. The balance of power has shifted dramatically, Madam President. Before this battle, humanity was considered a minor threat at best. Now we're seen as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Dangerous to those who threaten us, Sarah corrected. We've never started a war, Karen. We've only finished them. Back on the Defiance, Admiral Morrison received a priority message from Earth Command. The orders were simple. Return to Earth immediately for debriefing and assignment to a new mission. Set course for Earth, Commander Kelly, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Jake reflected on what had happened. The Defiance had been sent on a routine patrol mission and had ended up changing the course of galactic history. The crew had performed magnificently under impossible pressure. Admiral, Lisa said from her weapons station, I've been thinking about what happened today. Do you think the other species will try to develop similar weapons? They'll try, Jake replied. But Dr. Carter is right. They don't think like we do. They'll try to improve on their existing technology instead of creating something completely new. Lieutenant Tom Garcia looked up from his console. Admiral, what makes human technology so different from alien technology? Jake considered the question carefully. Alien species develop technology by building on what came before. They improve and refine, but they rarely make revolutionary breakthroughs. Humans are different. We look at a problem and ask, what if we tried something completely different? Dr. Carter nodded in agreement. The quantum cascade weapon is a perfect example. Alien species focused on making more powerful conventional weapons. We asked, what if we attack the structure of matter itself? It's a fundamentally different approach. As the Defiance traveled through hyperspace toward Earth, news of the battle continued to spread. On the Hegemony homeworld, military leaders were holding emergency meetings to discuss the implications of human weapons technology. How do we defend against a weapon that ignores shields and armor? Asked General Turval. We can't, replied Science Minister Yelanara. The humans have created something that operates outside our understanding of physics. Our only option is to ensure they never have reason to use. Commander Zexthal stared at the small human repair station through the viewing port of his massive warship. The Stellar Dominion was one of the largest vessels in the Galactic Coalition fleet, and it made the human station look like a toy. Metal structure orbited Earth's moon, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Its lights blinked in simple patterns, nothing like the complex energy displays of proper Coalition stations. This is what emergency protocols brought us to? Zexthal. Voice carried disgust through his translator. His scales shifted color from blue to dark purple, showing his anger. A primitive human outpost? His second-in-command, Officer Krolven, checked the damage reports on his tablet. Sir, our quantum drive core is failing. The hull breach is on. Decks 7 through 12 are getting worse. We lost 3 more energy conduits in the last hour. The massive ship shuddered as another system failed. Sparks flew from control panels, and the lights dimmed for a moment. Emergency alarms beeped throughout the bridge. Zexthal gripped his command chair as the ship lurched to one side. The nearest Coalition repair facility is 3 star systems away, Krolven continued. Our drive core won't last that long. The humans are our only option. Zexthal's forearms tensed with frustration. How had the mighty Coalition come to this? Depending on humans for repairs was embarrassing. These creatures had barely figured out faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their technology was simple, crude, and based on ancient mechanical principles that the galaxy had moved beyond centuries ago. Send the distress signal, he ordered. But make it clear this is temporary. We'll let them patch us up enough to reach a real repair facility. The human station responded quickly. A voice came through the communication system, speaking in the simple trade language most humans had learned. This is Luna Station Control. We received your distress call. Please state the nature of your emergency. This is Commander Zexthal of the Coalition Dreadnought Stellar Dominion. We require immediate docking and repair services. Our vessel has suffered severe damage. There was a pause. Then the human voice returned, sounding nervous. Commander, we're honored to help. Please follow the guidance beacons to docking bay. 7. It's our largest bay, but I'm not sure if your ship will fit. Zexthel looked at his navigation officer, who nodded. Sir, their largest bay is barely big enough for our ship. We'll have to retract our outer sensor arrays and fold in the UF. Weapon pods. The Stellar Dominion slowly moved toward the human station. Its massive bulk blocked out the stars as it approached. Human workers in simple spacesuits floated outside their station, watching the enormous alien vessel with obvious amazement. Some of them took pictures with primitive recording devices. Docking took almost an hour. The human station's guidance systems were basic but functional. Their docking clamps were strong enough to hold the Coalition ship, though they creaked and groaned under the weight. Finally, the airlocks connected with soft hissing sounds. Jake Martinez, the station chief, waited in the docking bay with a small team of humans. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and oil stains on his work uniform. His hands were rough from years of manual labor. He looked very small next to the massive alien airlock. When the door opened, Commander Zexthel stepped out in his environmental suit. He was 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin that changed colors. His 2 Coalition engineers followed him, their equipment floating behind them on anti-gravity platforms. Welcome to Luna Station, Jake said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. I'm Station Chief Martinez. We'll do everything we can to help you. Zexthel looked at the extended hand, but didn't take it. We require immediate assessment of our quantum drive core and hull integrity systems. How quickly can your people complete this task? Jake's team exchanged glances. The alien's attitude was cold and dismissive. We'll need to examine your ship first. My chief engineer, Lisa Campbell, and our physicist, Dr. Kevin Ross, will need to. Your primitive scanning equipment will be inadequate, interrupted one of the Coalition engineers. We have technology you cannot possibly understand. Your tools are centuries behind our standards. Lisa Campbell stepped forward. She was a woman in her 40s, with short brown hair and confident blue eyes. With respect, we've worked on Coalition technology before. We might surprise you. The Coalition engineers made sounds that might have been laughter. Impossible. Your species has barely mastered basic energy manipulation. Our quantum drive systems operate on principles your science hasn't discovered yet. Dr. Kevin Ross, quiet man with glasses, took notes on a simple tablet. He watched the alien engineers with interest, saying nothing. His calm demeanor contrasted with the alien's arrogance. If you'll follow me, Jake said, we can begin the assessment. Our teams are experienced with emergency repairs. As they walked through the station corridors, the Coalition engineers continued their comments. Look at these primitive tools, one said, pointing at a welding unit. They still use plasma torches for metalwork. How quaint. Their computer systems are laughably basic, the other added. No quantum processing, no dimensional matrix calculations. How do they accomplish anything? Lisa Campbell bit back her response. These aliens had no idea what human engineers could do. They saw simple tools and assumed simple minds. But she had spent years studying recovered alien technology, learning how it worked, and finding ways to fix it when alien engineers couldn't. The group reached the engineering section, where the Coalition ship's problems could be examined. The quantum drive core was visible through transparent aluminum panels. It pulsed with unstable energy, throwing off sparks and making dangerous clicking sounds. As you can see, Zexthel said, this is far beyond your capabilities. Perhaps you can provide us with raw materials while we attempt repairs ourselves. Jake studied the massive alien machine. To him, it looked like an overly complicated engine, with too many unnecessary parts. How long would your repairs take? With proper equipment from a Coalition facility, perhaps 6 to 8 weeks. With your primitive tools ... Zexthel's scales shifted to a darker color. It may be impossible. Dr. Ross stepped closer to the drive core, his scanner beeping softly. Interesting energy patterns, he murmured. The quantum matrix is destabilizing, but the core problem seems to be in the plasma flow regulation. The coalition engineer stared at him. You cannot possibly understand quantum matrix stabilization, one said. Your species lacks the mathematical framework to comprehend such concepts. Maybe, Dr. Ross replied quietly. But I understand energy flow, and I can see where yours is backing up. Lisa Campbell joined him, running her own scans. The plasma conduits are overloading because they're fighting each other. It's like having too many pipes trying to push water through the same valve. The aliens' expressions grew confused. These humans were talking about their most advanced technology, like it was simple plumbing. It was impossible, yet they seemed to be identifying real problems. Your assessment is interesting, Zexthal admitted reluctantly. But identifying problems and solving them are different things. Even if you understand what's wrong, you lack the tools to fix it. Jake Martinez smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. Commander, we've been fixing things that shouldn't work for a long time. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. The coalition officers exchanged glances. These humans were either very foolish or very confident. Either way, they were the only option available. Very well, Zexthal said. Show us what you can do. The coalition engineers spent the next 3 hours arguing among themselves. They stood around the failing quantum drive, pointing at different components and speaking in their complex technical language. Their voices grew louder as they disagreed about repair procedures. The quantum matrix requires complete recalibration, insisted the first engineer, whose name was Vextar. We must disassemble the entire core structure and rebuild it from the foundation level. Impossible, argued the second engineer, Quindle. The dimensional flux patterns have destabilized beyond standard repair protocols. We need to replace the entire plasma regulation system. Commander Zexthal watched his experts with growing frustration. How long will either approach take? 6 weeks minimum, Vextar replied. We would need to order specialized components from the coalition. Manufacturing worlds. The quantum crystals alone would take a month to grow properly. 8 weeks, Quindle countered. The plasma regulators are custom built for each ship class. They cannot be replicated with standard equipment. While the aliens argued, the human repair team worked quietly in the background. Sam Turner, a mechanic with 20 years of experience, crawled under the alien machinery with a simple flashlight and basic tools. He looked like a mouse next to the massive alien systems, but he moved with confidence. What is that human doing? Vextar demanded. He should not be touching our equipment without proper authorization. Just looking, Sam called out from under the machine, trying to understand how this thing works. Maria Santos, another experienced mechanic, joined him with her own tools. She was a small woman with strong hands and sharp eyes. Sam, look at this. These energy conduits are all tangled up. No wonder they're fighting each other. Yeah, I see it, Sam replied. It's like someone built a car engine with the fuel lines crossed. The energy wants to flow one way, but the system is forcing it to go 3 different directions. The coalition engineers stared at them. Your primitive analogies are meaningless, Quindle said. This is not a simple combustion engine. This is a quantum field manipulation system operating on multidimensional energy principles. Dr. Kevin Ross looked up from his tablet, where he had been taking notes and making calculations. Actually, their analogy is pretty accurate. Energy flow follows predictable patterns, whether it's gasoline in a car or quantum plasma in an alien drive core. Impossible, Vextar snapped. You cannot reduce advanced quantum mechanics to simple mechanical principles. Why not? Asked Lisa Campbell. She had been studying the alien schematics for the past hour, comparing them to her own understanding of energy systems. Energy is energy. It wants to flow from high pressure to low pressure, whether it's water in a pipe or exotic matter in a quantum field. Chief Martinez joined the conversation. Our people have been working with coalition technology for years. We've repaired dozens of alien ships that other stations couldn't fix. We just approached the problems differently. How differently? Commander Zexthil asked. Despite his prejudice against human capabilities, he was curious about their methods. We start with the basics, Lisa explained. Instead of looking at all the complex subsystems, we ask simple questions. What is this machine supposed to do? What's stopping it from doing that? What's the easiest way to fix it? Sam Turner slid out from under the machinery, his uniform dirty with alien lubricants. The problem is right here, he said, pointing to a junction where 6 different energy conduits met. These 3 conduits are pushing energy in, but these 3 are supposed to take it out. The system is basically choking on its own power. The human is correct, Dr. Ross added, showing his tablet readings. The energy buildup at that junction is causing cascade failures throughout the quantum matrix. Fix the bottleneck, and the whole system should stabilize. The coalition engineers looked at each other in confusion. Even if that analysis is correct, Vextar said, the solution requires precise quantum field manipulation. You would need equipment that doesn't exist on this station. Maybe, Maria Santos said, or maybe we just need to think about it differently. She pointed to the tangled conduits. What if we don't try to fix the junction? What if we just give the energy a different path? A bypass? Lisa Campbell's eyes lit up. That could work. We could reroute the plasma flow around the problem area. Entirely. Ridiculous, Quindle protested. The energy patterns are precisely calculated. Any deviation would destroy the quantum matrix coherence. Would it? Dr. Ross asked. The matrix is already failing. At this point, we're not making it worse. We're giving it a chance to work. Jake Martinez made a decision. Let's try it. What do we need? Lisa Campbell pulled out her own tablet and began sketching. We need to create a new conduit path. Something that can handle quantum plasma, but doesn't interfere with the existing matrix structure. I can fabricate a bypass tube, Sam said. We've got quantum-stable materials and storage, salvaged from other repairs. The welding will be tricky, Maria added. We'll need to attach it while the system is still running. Can't shut down the quantum field without losing containment. Commander Zexthil's scales shifted to a lighter color, showing his nervousness. You want to perform hot repairs on an unstable quantum drive? That's incredibly dangerous. Everything's dangerous, Jake replied. But your current plan takes 8 weeks. Our ship sensors show coalition patrol ships in this sector. If they find you here, disabled, what happens? The alien commander's expression grew grim. The coalition had enemies, and a defenseless dreadnought would be a tempting target. How long for your approach? 2 days, Lisa said confidently. Maybe 3 if we run into complications. 2 days versus 8 weeks, Sam added. And our way, you'll be flying with a better drive system than you had before. Better? Vextar laughed. Impossible. Coalition engineering is perfection. You cannot improve upon our designs. We'll see, Maria said quietly. She was already gathering her tools. Dr. Ross, can you monitor the quantum field while we work? We'll need to know immediately if something goes wrong. Of course, the physicist replied. I've been studying the energy patterns. I think I can predict how the system will respond to modifications. The coalition engineers watched in amazement as the human team began organizing their repair attempt. These primitive beings were planning to fix in days what coalition experts said would take months. It was either brilliant or suicidal. "Commander," Vexstar said quietly, "perhaps we should contact Coalition Command. Request emergency evacuation before these humans destroy your ship." Zexthel considered this. The safe option was to wait for Coalition rescue. But safe options took time, and time was something they didn't have. "No," he decided. "We'll let them try. But at the first sign of danger, we evacuate immediately." "Understood, sir," Quindle replied. "Though I suspect the first sign of danger will also be the last." Lisa Campbell overheard this comment and smiled. "Don't worry. We've done this before. Human engineering might look primitive, but it works. Sometimes the best solution is the one nobody expects." The human team spent the rest of the day planning their approach. They studied the alien systems, calculated energy flows, and designed their bypass solution. The Coalition engineers watched with growing fascination as these supposedly primitive beings demonstrated deep understanding of advanced physics. "How do they know so much about quantum mechanics?" Vexstar whispered to his colleague. "I don't." "No," Quindle replied. "Their methods are crude, but their understanding seems comprehensive." As the day ended, the human team was ready to begin their unconventional repair. The Coalition crew prepared for either success or disaster. Nobody knew which outcome was more likely. "Tomorrow," Jake Martinez told Commander Zexthel, "we'll show you what human engineering can do." The alien commander nodded, his scales showing. A mixture of hope and fear. "I hope you're right, Chief Martinez. All our lives depend on it." The repair began at dawn, Earth time. The human team gathered around the massive quantum drive core, their simple tools looking tiny next to the alien machinery. Lisa Campbell checked her equipment one final time while Dr. Ross calibrated his. "Monitoring systems. Everyone ready?" Lisa asked. Her team nodded. Sam Turner and Maria Santos had their welding equipment prepared. Tony Garcia and Michelle Brooks stood by with backup systems. The entire human crew looked calm and focused. The Coalition engineers watched from a safe distance. "This is madness," Vexstar muttered. "They're going to kill us all." "Perhaps, Commander," Zexthel replied, "but they seem confident, and their approach does address the core problem we identified." Dr. Ross studied his readings. "The quantum matrix is still stable, but barely. We need to work fast before the cascade failure reaches critical levels." "Beginning Phase 1, Lisa announced. She activated her plasma torch, a simple human tool that glowed with controlled energy. "Sam, guide the bypass conduit into position." Sam Turner maneuvered the new conduit tube, a piece of salvaged alien metal that the humans had modified with their own techniques. It looked crude compared to the sleek alien components, but it was designed to handle quantum plasma safely. "Positioning complete," Sam reported, "ready for welding." "Wait," Dr. Ross called out. "I'm seeing energy spikes in the quantum field. The system is reacting to the new conduit. Is that bad?" Maria Santos asked. "I'm not sure," Dr. Ross replied honestly. "The energy patterns are changing, but they're not collapsing. It's like the system is trying to understand what we're doing." Lisa Campbell made a decision. "We continue. Tony, start the plasma flow regulators. Michelle, monitor the field containment. If anything goes wrong, we shut down immediately." The human team moved with practiced efficiency. They had worked together for years, repairing everything from simple cargo ships to complex alien vessels. Each person knew their job and trusted their teammates completely. "Beginning welding sequence," Lisa announced. Her plasma torch touched the junction point between the new conduit and the existing system. Sparks flew in brilliant colors as human and alien technologies merged. The Coalition engineers gasped. "The quantum field is fluctuating," Quindle reported. "This is exactly what we predicted would happen." "But look at the energy flow," Dr. Ross said, studying his readings. "It's not collapsing. It's reorganizing itself." The quantum plasma began flowing through the new bypass conduit. The energy that had been building up at the problem junction now had a clear path to follow. The cascade failure that had been threatening the entire system started to reverse. "It's working," Sam Turner said in amazement. "The energy flow is normalizing." "Impossible," Vextar whispered. "The quantum matrix should be destabilizing. This violates basic principles of coalition engineering." "Maybe your principles are wrong," Maria Santos suggested. She was welding the second connection point, her movements smooth and confident. "Maybe making things too complicated causes more problems than it solves." Tony Garcia checked his monitoring. "Equipment. Energy efficiency is up 12% from baseline. The system is running smoother than it was before the damage." 12%? Commander Zexthel's scales shifted to a surprised silver color. "That's impossible. Coalition systems operate at maximum theoretical efficiency." "Apparently not," Lisa Campbell replied. She was working on the final connection, her plasma torch creating a perfect seal between human and alien components. Sometimes simple solutions work better than complicated ones. The repair continued for several hours. The human team worked steadily, solving problems as they arose. When they encountered unexpected energy fluctuations, they adjusted their approach. When the quantum field showed signs of instability, they modified their technique. Each challenge was met with practical solutions that shouldn't have worked, but did. "Phase 2 complete," Lisa announced. "Beginning final integration sequence." Dr. Ross monitored the quantum field as the new bypass system came fully online. "Energy patterns are stabilizing. The matrix coherence is actually improving." "Improving?" Quindle checked his own instruments. "That's not possible. The quantum matrix was designed by our best engineers. It cannot be improved with primitive human modifications." "Watch and learn," Michelle Brooks said quietly. She was calibrating the final energy flow regulators, fine-tuning the system for optimal performance. The quantum drive core hummed with new energy. The dangerous clicking sounds had stopped. The unstable energy fluctuations had smoothed out. The entire system radiated power and stability. "System check complete," Tony Garcia reported. "All energy flows are within optimal parameters. Drive core efficiency is up 18% from original specifications." The Coalition engineers stared in shock. 18%? Vextar's voice was barely a whisper. "That's impossible. Our designs are perfect." "Nothing's perfect," Sam Turner said, cleaning his tools. "Everything can be improved if you think about it the right way." Commander Zexthel approached the repaired drive core. The massive alien machine looked the same as before, but now it included human-made components that seemed to fit perfectly despite being created with simple tools. "How?" he asked. "How did you accomplish this?" "We listened to the machine," Lisa Campbell explained. "Instead of forcing it to work according to complex theories, we asked what it needed to run efficiently. Then we gave it what it needed." "Your bypass system shouldn't work," Quindle protested. "The energy flows should be chaotic. The quantum matrix should be unstable." "Should be," Dr. Ross agreed. "But it's not. Sometimes reality doesn't match theory. When that happens, we trust reality." Maria Santos pointed to the original junction that had caused all the problems. "Your system was fighting itself. All those complex calculations and precise calibrations were actually making things worse. Our bypass just gives the energy a path that makes sense." "But the engineering principles," Vextar insisted. The mathematical frameworks, the established protocols, are just tools, Jake Martinez said. They're meant to help us solve problems, not create them. When the tools don't work, we find better ones. The repair was complete. The quantum drive. Core ran smoother than it had in years. The energy efficiency was higher than Coalition specifications. The entire system was more stable and reliable than before. Incredible, Commander Zexthul muttered. You've done something our best engineers. Side was impossible. We've done something your best engineers wouldn't try, Lisa corrected. There's a difference. The Coalition crew prepared for departure. Their ship was now running better than when it had first left the shipyard. The repairs that should have taken 8 weeks were complete in 2 days. How do we explain this to Coalition Command? Vextar asked his colleague. We don't, Quindle replied. They wouldn't believe it anyway. As the Stellar Dominion prepared to leave Luna Station, Commander Zexthul made a decision that would change everything. Chief Martinez, he said, I want to document this repair procedure. Other Coalition vessels may benefit from your ... techniques. Of course, Jake replied. We're always happy to share knowledge. The massive alien ship departed, its quantum drive humming with perfect efficiency. The Coalition crew was quiet, processing what they had witnessed. Human engineers had not just repaired their ship, they had improved it beyond what alien technology could achieve. Commander, Vextar said finally, perhaps we should reconsider our assumptions about human capabilities. Yes, Zexthul agreed. Perhaps we should. Word of the impossible repair began to spread through the Coalition fleet. Soon, other ships would come to Luna Station, seeking the human touch that could make their technology work better than ever before. 3 weeks after the Stellar Dominion departed Luna Station, the first curious visitor arrived. Captain Yaranik of the Trade Federation cargo hauler Void Merchant requested permission to dock. Her ship wasn't damaged, but she had heard rumors about the human repair station. Permission granted, Jake Martinez replied over the communications channel. What can we help you with today, Captain? I want to see if the stories are true, Yaranik said bluntly. Coalition Command is saying your people perform impossible repairs on Commander Zexthul's dreadnought. I need to know if humans can really improve alien technology. Jake smiled. Word was spreading faster than he had expected. We'll be happy to take a look at your ship. What problems are you having? My cargo hauler is old, Yaranik explained. The engines run hot, the power systems are inefficient, and the cargo handling equipment breaks down constantly. 3 different Coalition repair facilities have told me the ship is beyond economical repair. We'll see about that, Jake replied. Dock in Bay 3. Chief Campbell will meet you there. The Void Merchant was indeed old. A cargo ship had been in service for 40 years, hauling goods between star systems. Its hull showed the wear of countless journeys, and its engines made concerning noises during landing. Lisa Campbell greeted Captain Yaranik at the airlock. The alien captain was a tall, thin being with 6 arms and silver skin. Her species was known for their practical nature and business sense. Captain, Lisa said, what's your main concern with the ship? Everything, Yaranik replied, but mostly the engines. They're supposed to run at 70% efficiency, but they're down to 40%. Any lower, and I'll lose my shipping. Contracts, Lisa nodded. Let's take a look. The human team spent the morning examining the alien cargo ship. Sam Turner crawled through the engine compartments, checking connections and energy flows. Maria Santos inspected the power distribution systems. Dr. Ross analyzed the computer controls that managed the ship's operations. Well, Captain Yaranik asked after the inspection was complete. Good news and bad news, Lisa said. The bad news is that your ship has 40 years of accumulated problems. The good news is that most of them are easy to fix. Coalition engineers said the problems were too complex for economical repair, Yarnik pointed out. They were thinking about it wrong, Sam Turner explained. They wanted to replace every worn component with new parts. That's expensive and time-consuming. What we want to do, Maria Santos added, is understand why the components are wearing out and fix the root causes. Then the existing parts will last much longer. Dr. Ross showed Captain Yarnik his analysis. Your engines are running hot because the cooling system is fighting itself. The power systems are inefficient because they're trying to compensate for the overheating. The cargo equipment breaks down because it's not getting consistent power. So you fix the cooling system and everything else improves? Yarnik asked. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. Plus a few other modifications that will make the whole ship run better. The repair work began immediately. The human team didn't just fix the cooling system, they redesigned it, using simple principles of heat transfer and fluid dynamics. They created a cooling loop that was more efficient than the original design. How did you know to do this? Captain Yarnik asked, watching Tony Garcia install new cooling conduits. Experience, Tony replied. We've worked on hundreds of ships over the years. After a while, you start to see patterns. Most alien designs are more complicated than they need to be. Complicated doesn't mean better, Michelle Brooks added. She was rewiring the power distribution network, simplifying the control systems. Sometimes the best solution is the easiest one. The work continued for 2 days. The human team found creative solutions to problems that had plagued the ship for years. They improved the engine efficiency, stabilized the power systems, and made the cargo handling equipment more reliable. Testing complete, Dr. Ross announced. Engine efficiency is up to 85%. Power systems are stable across all operating ranges. Cargo handling equipment is functioning perfectly. Captain Yarnik stared at the test results. 85%? That's better than factory specifications. Your ship is old, Lisa Campbell explained, but it's well built. A basic design is sound. It just needed someone to make it work the way it was supposed to. How much do I owe you? Yarnik asked. Standard repair rates, Jake Martinez replied. Same as we'd charge for any other ship. But you've improved. My ship beyond original specifications. Coalition repair facilities would charge premium rates for this kind of work. We're not coalition, Jake said simply. We're human. We fix things because that's what we do. Captain Yarnik departed with a ship that ran better than it had in decades. She immediately contacted other Trade Federation captains, telling them about the remarkable human repair station. The next visitor arrived a week later, Dr. Zalmer of the scientific research vessel Cosmic. Inquiry had come specifically to test human capabilities. His ship carried sophisticated scientific equipment and complex experimental systems. I've heard remarkable claims about your repair abilities, Dr. Zalmer said. I have brought several challenging engineering problems to see if your methods can solve them. We're always up for a challenge, Lisa Campbell replied. What problems are you having? My quantum spectrometer keeps losing calibration. My dimensional scanner produces inconsistent readings. My antimatter containment system fluctuates randomly. 3 different coalition science facilities have declared these problems unsolvable. Dr. Ross studied the scientific equipment with interest. These are fascinating machines. Very sophisticated. Too sophisticated for your primitive techniques, I would assume, Dr. Zalmer said. But I wanted to test the claims I've been hearing. The human team spent 3 days studying the alien scientific instruments. They were indeed complex, with multiple interconnected systems that operated on advanced physical principles. Found. The problems, Sam Turner announced. Your quantum spectrometer is perfectly calibrated. The problem is that your ship's main computer is trying to recalibrate it every few minutes. The dimensional scanner is fine too, Maria Santos added. But it's picking up interference from your own quantum spectrometer. They're fighting each other. And your antimatter containment system, Tony Garcia continued, is fluctuating because it's trying to compensate for power variations caused by the other two systems. Dr. Zalmer looked confused. But these are separate systems. They shouldn't interfere with each other. They shouldn't, Dr. Ross agreed, but they do. The problem isn't with the individual machines. It's with how they're integrated into your ship systems. So what's the solution? Dr. Zalmer asked. Isolation, Lisa Campbell said. We create buffer systems that prevent the machines from interfering with each other. Simple fix, but it requires understanding how all the systems work together. The repairs took 2 days. The human team didn't modify the sophisticated scientific equipment. They just prevented it from interfering with itself. The solution was elegant in its simplicity. Testing complete, Dr. Ross announced. All systems are operating at optimal efficiency with no interference. Dr. Zalmer ran his own tests. Every instrument worked perfectly. The readings were consistent and accurate. The scientific equipment performed better than factory specifications. Remarkable, he said. Coalition science facilities told me these problems were inherent to the technology. You've solved them in 2 days. The problems weren't inherent, Lisa explained. They were caused by the systems not working well together. Once we fixed that, everything worked fine. Dr. Zalmer returned to the coalition science community with proof that human engineering could solve problems that alien experts couldn't. His report caused great interest and some concern among coalition scientists. More ships began arriving at Luna Station. Each captain brought different problems, and each time the human team found solutions that worked better than anyone expected. The station's reputation grew with each successful repair. We're getting famous, Jake Martinez told his team during a staff meeting. Ships are coming from all over the galaxy just to see what we can do. Are we ready for this? Lisa Campbell asked. We're a small station with a small crew. If this keeps up, we'll be overwhelmed. We'll adapt, Jake replied. We always do. Besides, this is good for humanity. We're showing the galaxy that humans have something valuable to offer. The repairs continued, each one building on the lessons learned from previous visits. The human team was developing a reputation not just for fixing things, but for making them work better than they ever had before. Word of the human repair station spread throughout the galaxy. Soon, Luna Station would become the most sought-after repair destination in known space. 6 months after the first coalition vessel had limped into Luna Station, the small human repair facility had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The original docking bays had been expanded to accommodate ships of all sizes. New workshops had been built to handle different types of alien technology. The staff had grown from 12 humans to over 200. Jake Martinez stood in the new observation deck, watching alien vessels from across the galaxy queue up for repair services. Coalition warships waited alongside Trade Federation cargo, haulers, scientific research vessels, and civilian transports. The waiting list for repairs had grown to 3 months. Hard to believe, isn't it? Lisa Campbell joined him at the observation window. She had been promoted to Chief Engineering Officer for the expanded facility. 6 months ago, we were a small maintenance station. Now we're the most requested repair facility in the galaxy. The aliens are still coming to understand what we do here, Jake replied. They arrive expecting standard repairs and leave with ships that work better than they ever imagined. Down in the main workshop, Bobby Chun was explaining human repair techniques to a group of alien engineering students. The young human mechanic had become an unofficial teacher, sharing knowledge with beings from dozens of different species. The key is listening to the machine, Bobby told his audience. Every piece of equipment has a natural way it wants to work. Our job is to help it do that, not force it to follow complicated rules. Among his students was engineer Kexwan from the Coalition Science Academy. She had come to Luna Station as a skeptic, convinced that human methods were primitive and dangerous. 3 weeks of observation had changed her mind completely. But how do you know what the machine wants? Kexwan asked. Without proper diagnostic equipment and mathematical analysis, how can you determine optimal function parameters? Karen Phillips, a systems specialist, overheard the question and joined the discussion. We watch, we listen, we test small changes, and see what happens. Sometimes the best diagnostic tool is experience. Experience cannot replace scientific analysis, Kexwan protested, though her tone was less certain than before. Maybe not replace, Bobby agreed, but it can supplement it. We use scientific analysis too, but we don't let it stop us from trying. Things that should work even if we can't prove why. The discussion was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. Attention all personnel. Coalition Dreadnought Stellar Dominion is requesting permission to dock. Jake Martinez smiled. Commander Zexthal was returning, and this time it wasn't an emergency. The Coalition commander had requested a routine maintenance check, something. That would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. The massive warship docked in the main bay, its hull gleaming with recent repairs from other facilities. Commander Zexthal emerged from the airlock with a much larger group than before, including several high-ranking Coalition officials. Chief Martinez, Zexthal said, his scales showing a warm golden color that indicated respect. I want you to meet Admiral Questara, Supreme Commander of Coalition Engineering Corps. The Admiral was an imposing figure, even taller than Zexthal, with ceremonial markings that indicated the highest levels of military engineering expertise. Her 4 arms were adorned with insignia representing decades of service. Chief Martinez. Admiral Questara said, I have come to see this facility for myself. The reports I've received are difficult to believe. We're honored by your visit, Jake replied. What would you like to see? Everything, the Admiral said simply. I want to understand how humans have achieved what our best engineers consider impossible. The tour began in the main workshop, where Alex Rivera's team was working on a Coalition patrol ship. The vessel had arrived with standard wear and maintenance issues, but the humans were implementing improvements that would extend its operational life by decades. Explain your methodology. Admiral Questara commanded. Alex looked up from his work, oil stains on his uniform and a confident smile on his face. We start by asking what's wrong and what's right. Then we figure out how to fix the wrong parts, without breaking the right parts. That is absurdly simplistic, the Admiral said. Simple usually works better than complicated, Alex replied. This ship's main problem is that its power distribution system fights itself. Instead of redesigning the whole system, we just give the power an easier path to follow. Admiral Questara watched as the human team implemented their modifications. The work looked crude compared to Coalition precision techniques, but the results were undeniable. The ship's efficiency improved by 20% in just 2 hours. The tour continued through different workshops. Frank Moore demonstrated engine optimization techniques that increased power output while reducing fuel consumption. Nancy Walsh showed how communication systems could be simplified to improve reliability and range. Your people seem to have an intuitive understanding of engineering principles, Admiral Questara observed. How is this possible? Your species has only recently developed space travel. Dr. Kevin Ross, who had been documenting human repair techniques, joined the conversation. We think it's because humans approach problems differently. We don't start with theory and work toward practice. We start with what needs to be done and figure out how to do it. But surely scientific principles must guide engineering decisions, the Admiral protested. They do, Dr. Ross agreed. But we don't let them limit our options. If something works, we try to understand why afterward. If it doesn't work, we try something else. The tour reached its climax in the advanced workshop, where Pete Collins and Danny Cruz were working on an experimental project. They had taken components from a dozen different alien technologies and created a hybrid system that combined the best features of each. What is this? Admiral Quexdara asked, studying the strange machine. A universal repair unit, Pete explained. It can adapt to work on any type of alien technology. Instead of needing different tools for different species equipment, this one tool can handle everything. Impossible, the Admiral said automatically. Alien technologies are too different to be serviced by a single system. That's what we thought. Too, Danny added. But when you break everything down to basic principles, energy flow, structural integrity, information processing, most technologies work the same way underneath. Admiral Quexdara spent an hour examining the Universal Repair Unit. It was unlike anything in Coalition technology, yet it clearly worked. The machine successfully diagnosed and repaired components from 6 different alien species. I need to speak with you privately, the Admiral told Jake Martinez. They went to Jake's office, a simple room overlooking the main workshop. Through the windows, they could see humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge and techniques. Chief Martinez, Admiral Quexdara began. I came here expecting to find humans using primitive methods to achieve limited results. Instead, I find a facility that surpasses anything in Coalition space. We just do what works, Jake replied modestly. It's more than that, the Admiral continued. Your people have created a new approach to engineering, one that combines scientific knowledge with practical innovation in ways we never considered. She paused, her scales shifting to show deep thought. The Coalition would like to propose a formal partnership. We want to establish joint research facilities where human and alien engineers can work together. We want to learn from each other. Jake considered this carefully. What kind of partnership? Full technological exchange, the Admiral said. We share our most advanced technologies with humanity. In return, your people teach us your methods and help us apply them to our own engineering challenges. That's a generous offer, Jake said. But what do you really want? Admiral Quexdara's scales showed a color Jake had never seen before, a deep purple that seemed to indicate profound respect. We want to learn how to think like humans, she said simply. We want to understand how your people can look at our most complex technologies and see simple solutions. The partnership agreement was signed 2 weeks later. The ceremony took place in the main docking bay, with representatives from dozens of alien species in attendance. Jake Martinez and Admiral Quexdara exchanged documents while engineers from across the galaxy watched history being made. This partnership represents a new era in galactic engineering, Admiral Quexdara announced. No longer will different species work in isolation. Together, we will solve problems that no single species could handle alone. The first joint project was announced immediately, the construction of a new type of starship that would incorporate the best technologies and techniques from across the galaxy. The vessel would be called the Unity Forge, and it would serve as a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Months later, Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the completed Unity Forge. The ship was beautiful, combining sleek alien aesthetics with robust human engineering principles. Its systems ran with perfect efficiency, incorporating innovations that no single species could have developed alone. Status report, Jake called out. All systems optimal, reported Chief Engineer Lisa Campbell. Drive efficiency is exceeding all projections. This ship will revolutionize space travel throughout the galaxy. The Unity Forge departed Luna Station on its maiden voyage. carrying a mixed crew,